Hello and welcome back to Tidbit of Torah. This week, someone asked me a fascinating question about what is similar and different between Christianity and Judaism around thoughts and action. We were having a discussion and thinking about how Judaism might be uniquely focused on action. And that is true. We care a lot about what we do in terms of following the mitzvot, the commandments, in terms of how we show up ritually, how we show up in terms of helping one another through gimilut chasadim, through doing things like delivering mishlach manot bags to our friends at this time of year for Purim, or giving gifts to the poor in honor of Purim, showing up in costumes and festivity, helping others in need. Those are all things that Judaism values because it is really oriented around actions. And we really want to encourage our children to think about their behavior, their actions, and how that affects the other people around them as their bubble of understanding about the self expands into a world of family and community. But the truth is that Judaism also really does care about the intentionality of our actions. We see that in this week's Torah portion, Parshat Vayikra, which is, as it sounds, the beginning of the third book of Torah, Vayikra or Leviticus, which we begin this week. This is a special Shabbat. It's also Parshat Zachor, when we read a special reading about remembering Amalek and the pain and the fear and the hurt and the damage that was caused to the Israelite community when they were attacked in the wilderness. And there's a lot in terms of what we can relate to today in terms of that feeling of being attacked as a people, of being in fear, and also the need to zachor, to remember, so that we can change the world and make it a world in which we don't feel vulnerable and at risk and scared. But going back to this intentionality idea, in this week's Torah portion, we talk a lot about the sacrifices. And one of the ideas that we find in our Torah is that actually, when I make a sin intentionally, that's actually different than when I misstep and with my action unintentionally. The Torah in Leviticus chapters 4 and 5 talks about a chata, that bishgaga, which means an unintentional sin. Bishgaga, which means accidental or intention, and unintentional, is something that we can relate to, right? Sometimes you might do something like accidentally hit your sister if you're a little person, and you're like, but Mom, I didn't mean to. Do I really need to get a timeout? Can't I just apologize? Or as an adult, I might accidentally leave off someone's email that I meant to invite to a committee meeting or to a simcha, a special holiday or something, and they might feel really hurt and upset for good reason because the impact was painful, as if I had intentionally left them out. And the truth is that it was just a slip of the mind, or I forgot to copy their email, or I mistyped it, right? We've all done that. And it was actually an unintentional, hurtful action that we had. How does Judaism rectify with unintentional sins? Well, actually, the nature of the offering, the sacrifice that someone needs to bring, if it is a sin that was committed bishgaga, that was unintentional, is different than as if it was an intentional sin. And as you might expect, it's a less of a punishment inflicted upon someone. And yet, still in our Torah, in Parshat Vayikra, it's important that even for unintentional sins, that we still bring a guilt offering, that we still go through the physical act of rectifying what was wrong and bring an offering. Of course, we don't practice animal sacrifice today. But teaching our children and reminding ourselves that even when we unintentionally mess up, that it's important to go through the process of apologizing and mending what is broken. I teach this all the time to my children when they say, but I didn't mean to. Right? that nonetheless, you can't only be focused on what you did and whether you meant to do it or not, but you also have to have a more, what we might call, victim-centered mindset, which is to understand the impact. Whether or not my daughter meant to hit her sister or not, still, that could have been a really painful hit that her sister took. And so the importance of not only apologizing sincerely, but also doing work to fix what is broken, to heal what pain has been done, is an important part of the process. So as we enter into the festival of Purim, and we think a lot about our actions, what costume, what we're going to wear, who we're going to give mishloach manot bags to, how we want to show up with joy at a time where it might be hard to show up in our world more joyfully. I think there's a lot of wisdom that this week's Torah portion offers us in terms of not only thinking about our actions, but also thinking about their consequences and impact on others, and also understanding that the intent matters, but that doesn't negate also the impact of our actions. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Purim Sameach.